And welcome back. We are at Dickey's Barbecue Pit, 10,008 South Point Parkway. It is CBTV's High School Football Playoff Show. Mike Neville along with George Kearns and David Robinson. We're at the 4A East side of things now, and we're talking about conferences 19 and 20, and we have a couple of local teams involved in that one. And Chancellor has moved on in the playoffs, and of course you saw that game. We taped the game with Powhatan, and I've said this many times. I've covered Chancellor a lot of times, but I think that might be the best I've ever seen them play as they rolled to a 59-13 victory over Powhatan. And in that game, the Chargers rushed for 306 yards as a team. 206 of those yards came from Lavelle Armstead, and he scored a pair of touchdowns. Jason Brown with 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers. They're a tough team to beat, and the defense got it done too with 6 sacks. And our player of the game, Matos, I believe had 2 or 3 of those 6 sacks. So just a tough team. They're going to go on and play Eastern View. Eastern View knocked off King George 42-14. Now, George, these two teams met in the regular season with Eastern View winning in overtime, but I want to put a little asterisk next to that because I don't think Matos played in that game.
Yeah, that's true. This should be a real good game this time, but the way Chancellor's defense is playing right now, they're on fire. They're clicking on all cylinders, and they're playing good at the right time. This is playoff time. They've past 5-6 weeks they've been on a roll, and they could hang with anybody in 4A.
David, Tim Coleman talked about if they get that running game to complement that passing game, this might be one of the toughest teams to get out of the playoffs.
You're exactly right, and I was talking to Jason Brown before the game the other night, and he was really upset because he had to sit on the bench because he was injured the game last year when Eastern View knocked him out the playoffs, and he said 2 or 3 of his other teammates were hurt and couldn't play either. So they're back, and I tell you, I'm not a betting man, but I'll tell you, I believe Chancellor will be up for the task this time. It took them overtime to beat them this year, and I believe they're up for the task this time.
Should be a good one at Eastern View in the next round. Also, Dinwiddie and Monacan will square off, George. Dinwiddie ending Cortland's season very convincingly, 40-7, and Monacan picked up a win, 42-24. Dinwiddie, the number 1 seed, and they're unbeaten. They're a tough team.
Yeah, they're very tough. They got that saying, defense wins championships, and Dinwiddie's got a defense and one of the best secondaries in the state. It's hard to throw against them. You better be ready. That's all I can say.
George, how about the matchups in the conference 17 and 18 in the 4A East side?
You got number 5 Grafton, winners over Smithfield will play number 1 Lafayette, and a rematch of earlier this year, number 3 Heritage Newport News against number 2 Lake Taylor. With not a healthy Jeremiah Boyd from Heritage Newport News, they barely got past Kings Fork. Lake Taylor's looking for revenge, and with this we get crisscross after this, and so if Lafayette wins, Chancellor wins, then Chancellor will have to go to Lafayette next week. But suppose Monacan can upset Dinwiddie and Chancellor wins, then and Lake Taylor wins, Lake Taylor or Heritage Newport News could have to come to Chancellor next week.
So there's a chance that the Chargers could host.
One thing we were forgetting to mention in the Dinwiddie, in the Monacan and Louisa game, a lot of people don't know that leading rusher they had, that big quarterback weighed 240 pounds. He tore his ACL or stretched it or hurt it Thursday before the game, so he didn't play against Monacan. And also Jordan Cherry, another good player they had on offense. Neither one of those played in that game. Now, whether it would have made a difference, I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing, it was a big letdown for the Louisa team to lose those, especially that big running back is leading team in rushing, and one of the top rushers in the Commonwealth District.
Right, exactly. And how about over on the 4A West side of things, George?
We got number 8 Charlottesville, who's rolling right now. They ran for over 400 yards against John Champ last week, and they're playing good at the right time also, but they got to go face number 1 Woodgrove, number 5 Amherst, winners over Pulaski County, got to go to number 4 Dominion, number 6 Millbrook against number 3 Salem, and number 10 Heritage Leesburg over number 2 William Byrd.
So Heritage Leesburg, a 10th seed, they were able to win over the 7th seed GW Danville. Is that correct?
Yeah, they scored a touchdown with 22 seconds left. Heritage Leesburg's got good running backs, good passing game, and they scored a touchdown with 22 seconds to beat GW Danville.
You mentioned Charlottesville rushing for over 400 yards as a team. Is that going to be one of the keys you see, George, with that matchup with Woodgrove? Run the ball, keep that clock running, keep that Woodgrove offense off the field?
Yeah, if they can run against Woodgrove, but that's the problem. Woodgrove has a good defense, and but I'm not too sold on the Dulles District. There's a lot of good teams out there. I look for Amherst County to go through Dominion and Woodgrove and get to the state semis.
And what about Millbrook? They're 10-1 as a 6th seed, and Salem is 9-1, and they're the 3rd seed. What do you like about that game?
Millbrook, their one loss was against Woodgrove earlier this year, 50-15. But Salem, they wheeled off 9 straight wins after losing to Amherst in the opener, and they're looking forward to trying to beat Millbrook. And Bird's not trying to look past Heritage Leesburg for a showdown next week with Salem and Bird.
Yeah, I was just going to say, William Bird's sitting there at 9-1, and you mentioned Heritage Leesburg, a 10th seed, now 8-3 after their victory in the first round. But William Bird is usually pretty good in playoff action. I would expect them to move on.
Right. Yeah, they're pretty good. They got good running backs and everything. They're clicking on all cylinders, so we'll see how it goes.
You can tell at 8-3, they're the 10th seed. They come over a pretty strong district or area, didn't they?
Yeah, they come out of the Dulles District. Loudoun County's got some good teams, but they're coming down to face one of the crunch teams. So.
Yeah, George, when Pulaski played Amherst this year, did Amherst beat them pretty bad? Or did they play?
Yeah.
They did. What was this? You remember?
Well, they didn't play during the regular season. They played last year in the playoffs, and Amherst beat them 22-21, and then Amherst beat them again last week in the playoffs, knocked them out again.
Real quick, going back to the Eastern View Chancellor matchup. Eastern View 42-14 was the final last week as they beat King George. And as I mentioned, they played Chancellor in the regular season, lost and beat them in overtime 38-31. But a pair of running backs, Justin Pollard and Trey Holmes, combined for 281 yards rushing and also 5 touchdowns. So obviously those are 2 running backs that Chancellor's going to have to worry about on the Eastern View side of things.
Yeah, and last week they didn't have to worry about it, but the running back at that
De Leon,
he was tough. And you stop him, you stop a good runner. I think he had, what they say, 75, 80 yards or something?
Yep, 74 yards rushing.
All right, so that's a look at the 4A. Up next, we're going to take a look at the 3A playoff scenario and then come back and wrap things up in a couple of segments. So keep listening and keep watching CBTV's High School Football Playoff Preview Show. We're at Dickey's Barbecue Pit, 10,008 South Point Parkway. We'll be back. Stay with us.